Good morning, good morning. Good morning. All right, guys, we have a lot to cover in class, and I am going to be seeing you guys. Exciting news, Shaquan. I can't wait to hear about that. Oh my goodness. I thought you were having little baby puppies. When are the baby puppies coming? That's what I want to see. Not yet. Okay, getting everybody in here. I'm going to start with sharing my screen with you on what everybody's writing in their agenda in person as far as homework assignments. Let me share that with you. Let me do a share. Okay, so we are going to have a homework number 16 tonight, and then also review pages 33 to 35. We are going to work on that during fifth block. So at 11:45, just like last week, Monday and Tuesday is math review for this week. This math review is on circles. So some people still have not turned in their pie quiz. So we need to make sure that we get that turned in. And then we're going to work on this today. So these are the two things that would need to be finished by 8 o'clock tonight. And a reminder that at 11:45, today and tomorrow is math, and then Wednesday and Thursday is language arts. Okay, so a reminder of that. Okay, if you want to write that down somewhere so you can stay organized, put it in your planner, whatever you need to do. Okay, and let me see, we're still missing. All right, hopefully we've got everybody in here. All right, make sure cameras are turned on. Make sure that you have note of this, that you're going to come back. Reagan, I'm not sure, dear. Let me see if I can pop that. Wait just a second. Reagan, I did not get your quiz from Friday. So you need to go back and look at that, dear. Worst case scenario, you can meet with me tomorrow for ETEH after we do our Tuesday math review, okay? So you can see me on, if we don't get that, we can take care of it. Okay, so yes, Jamal, I got yours. I have assignments from Josh. This is Friday's assignments. I have them from Joshua, Kazarian, Audrey, Ariana, Brianna, Riley, Garcia, Tristan, Shaquan, Lamar, Dakota, Jaheim, Brady, and Jamal. That's the assignments that I got. Okay, so that way you know, Friday assignments, I've received those. Okay. All right, so looking at all right, so here we go. We are now looking at interactive notebooks. We're in our Q3 notebooks. You are going to need Desmos. You're going to need pencil and highlighter. Okay, so we're going to start on page 58. Use your formula sheet. So you can, if you want to have this open and see your formula sheet at the same time, you can use the one that's in your Q4 folder. So in your Q4 folder, you have this behind the second page behind the card. So you can have this out and have this out at the same time. Okay, so you definitely want to be able to see your formula sheet because we're going to be using that, and you can use that Also with Miss Hall, you're going to be finishing that practice test, the calculator part. So in class, you're going to be doing that. If you have finished it or when you finish it, then you can use your time to work on missing assignments. Make sure if you've finished something that you reach out to the teacher so they can update grades. Tomorrow, we're finalizing your progress report grade, not the 9 weeks grade, but the grade that's going to be posted for progress reports. That is going to be last time to take care of that would be tonight or tomorrow morning if you have any missing assignments. On page 58, you are going to work on using your information for circumference, for circles, and also area of circles, using your formula sheet and Desmos. Look for keywords, highlight them, draw what part you know on the circle, write the formula, and solve. So you have 1, 2, and 3, and you have 4 minutes to do that. Okay, page 58 as a review. All right, guys, what we're doing is we're looking at the keywords that are given. We know all of these are circles. When you're doing your practice test, you're not going to have the circle drawn and you're not going to have it all on one page. So you need to be able to look at it carefully to figure it out. So notice it says he wants to construct a circle graph. He begins by drawing a circle with his compass. What is the distance around if the radius is 70 millimeters? So I got that part. That's the easy part. I need you to chat to me how I know if this is an area or circumference problem. So this part I know is 70 millimeters. How do you know that it's either area or circumference? Can somebody give me a keyword that you saw? Yes, good, good, good. I'm seeing a lot of good information. Distance around. So because it's distance around, I know it's circumference because this is the radius part of the circle. When I look at my formula sheet, I'm going to pick the formula that starts with a capital C equals, and I'm going to pick the one with the R, so that's 2 pi r. I'm going to put C equals 2 times pi is going to be 3.14 times radius is 70. Okay, I recommend that you use Desmos because that is going to be the best thing for you to keep track of what you've put in, where I can't do that. So hopefully you agree. The 439 6/10 millimeters. It's a distance. Do we agree with that? Yes? Anybody get something different? Okay, y'all with me? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, just checking. All right, Mr. Rodriguez purchased a circular rug for his office. The rug has a radius, so there's the part of the circle. And then it says area. So that makes it pretty easy. I know area equals pi r squared. That's the only formula we have for area. We have the radius, and that's 6 5/10 feet. So area is going to equal pi is going to be 3.14 times radius is 6 5/10, and that's being squared. So if I do 3.14 times 6 5/10 squared, I get 132 665 thousandths. It says to the nearest tenth. 6 is in the tenths place. There is a 6 next to it. It's going to round up to 7. So area is going to be 132 7/10 feet squared. Any questions? Just a review of what we've done. It says Brandon baked a cake for his sweetie. He plans to put a border of purple icing around the top edge of the circular cake. To the nearest tenth, how many centimeters of icing will Brandon need to squeeze from the tube if the diameter is 24 centimeters? So that part I know. How do I know if this is area or circumference? How do I know? Where's my keyword that tells me it's area or circumference for this problem? Okay, around is a keyword, and around the top, I agree. And then also it says, and Audrey, nice job, border. If I put a border on something, it means I'm going around the outside of that object, whether it's a room or some other three-dimensional shape. So because I'm doing circumference, around or border, and I have diameter, I look at my formula sheet and see that C equals pi times diameter. Now I'm going to fill that in. C equals 3 1400ths times 24. C equals, so 3 1400ths times 24, and I get 75 3600ths. Round that to the nearest tenth. 3 is in the tenths place. There's a 6 next to it. It's going to be 75 4/10 centimeters. Okay, when you're doing teacher made this evening, you're going to put a space between the number and the unit. Okay, that's the only space. None of these others have any spaces between them until you get here, and that's going to be a space. Okay, to show that there it's the separation of the digits and the units. Okay, questions, review from what we've done. So now, if we go to page 61, Now that we've kind of looked at circumference and area, now today we're going to look at polygons. So a polygon is, well, a circle is not a polygon. So these are going to be all other shapes that are not circles called polygons. So we're going to look at those polygons and try to find the perimeter. But to make sure that we know what we're looking for, to think about this next unit, it's going to be a mix of perimeter and area. I'm going to give you a minute and a half to read each one of these. I want you to write area if it's an area problem. I want you to write perimeter if it's a perimeter problem. You don't have any numbers, so you can't find it. I just want to know, are we trying to find the area or perimeter for each one? Okay, you have a minute and a half to make that decision. You're going to write the word perimeter or area. Don't worry about the explaining why. We'll do that together. Go. And just a note, I need cameras turned on for the next part of this activity so I can see everyone, please. Because you're going to have to raise your hand for me to see your hand. All right, looking at number one, you're going to raise your hand when I give the word that you've written down. So it's either going to be perimeter or area for each one. Audrey, turn your camera on. Brianna, turn on your camera. Carlos, turn on your camera, please. Joshua, turn on your camera. And Lily, turn on your camera, please, so I can see you when you raise your hand. For number one, it says Todd needs to buy materials to replace the sail on his sailboat. Raise your hand if you say that's perimeter. Area. Okay, so how do we know which is which? Well, if we're replacing a sail on a sailboat, so if I have a little boat and this is the sail, I have to replace all of this part. Okay, so that is going to be, if I replace the sail, that is going to be area, because when I buy that to replace it, it's going to have to cover the frame. So the frame, the line I drew would be the perimeter. The coloring on the inside, the sail part, would be the area. Number two, it says Sarah wants to create a decorative border around her math poem before she puts it into her poetry book. Raise your hand if you say perimeter. Area. Okay, keyword for that. What would be a keyword? How did you know that it was perimeter? Good, the word border. So border and also around. So both of those would work. Okay. Those are the only two we're choosing between, is area and perimeter, Jamal, just area and perimeter. All right, number three says Mrs. Sunbeck has to fence in her backyard so that her dog Bogey will not wander away. Raise your hand if you say perimeter. Area. Okay, so think about a fence. How does a fence go in a yard? Do they come in, they lay it on top of all of your grass? Do they cover the yard with fencing? Is that going to keep the dog in if they lay the fence on top of the grass? How does the fence work? It goes around the yard. So if it goes around and it's a fence, then it's going to be the perimeter. Okay, it's around the yard. It's not on the yard. It goes around the yard. All right, number four says Bella wants to teach her baby brother how to draw a triangle, so she begins by having him trace one. Raise your hand if you say perimeter. Area. Okay, so a little confused on this. For this one, if I am going to have him trace a triangle, what is he going to do? Draw around that shape. So this is another perimeter. The triangle itself has area, but if I'm just tracing it and I go around, that's going to be perimeter. All right, finally, Mrs. Sunbeck wants to cover her entire classroom floor with bright blue and green ceramic tiles. Raise your hand if you say perimeter. Area. All right, we ended on a very strong note because she's going to cover the floor. That's going to be area. Okay, anytime we go around something, that's perimeter. If we're covering, that's going to be area. Turn to page 62. So perimeter versus area. Notice below, we're going to find the perimeter and area of each of the quadrilaterals. So for the first one, what is the perimeter of this shape? Once you find it, send me the number. What is the perimeter of the shape for number one? Remember, that's outside. Perimeter of the shape. Getting some answers. Okay. What I would do for this, because one of the questions says, I found the perimeter by. I know that perimeter is the distance around. So from here to here is 1. Here to here is 2. Here to here is 3. Here to here is 4. So I could count around. And I can see all the way around that shape is 18. So that would be 18 centimeters. Now, I found that perimeter by counting the centimeters around the shape. All right, now notice area. Area is going to be this part. That is covering. So like if this were a room and I wanted to put in tiles and each one of these squares represented a tile, I would be able to come up with what? Send me a message when you can tell me the area of this shape. Okay, getting a lot of different answers. So when I look at this, I know that the number of squares inside is going to be the area. Each one of these squares is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Inside, there are 20 centimeters squared. Each one of these is a square centimeter. So I'm going to put 20 centimeters squared. How did I find that? By counting the square centimeters inside the shape. Okay, so on the outside perimeter are just lines. It's a length, and each length is a centimeter. Inside the figure are centimeters squared because each one of those squares inside is a centimeter squared. It's a centimeter this way by a centimeter this way. And that's what we would use to cover. Now we're going to focus today on the perimeter part. Tomorrow, the area. So today, looking at perimeter, what is perimeter? So on page 63, the perimeter is, let me find my answers I did earlier. So all my classes have the same information. Maybe it's not in here. Got it. Okay, the perimeter is, now notice in the word perimeter, the rim of something is the edge of that item. So the perimeter is the total distance around any polygon. Now, the word polygon has two word parts, poly and gon. Poly means many. Gon means sides. So a polygon has many sides. Okay. The general rule for calculating a polygon's perimeter is to add the lengths of each side together. Okay, so to do this, we would add the lengths of the sides together. Now we're going to use the formula sheet for many of the shapes that we talk about, but we may have some shapes that do not have a formula because the shape could be changing. For example, if we look at the formula sheet for the triangle, okay, and I look at that formula sheet, I have one. This out. If I look at my formula sheet, I see there's a triangle, but do I have a formula for perimeter? How would I know? Perimeter formulas are going to start with the letter P. So notice underneath the triangle, we don't have a formula for perimeter, but we can find the perimeter by taking one side plus another side plus another side. So we can add all three sides together. So my perimeter would equal 11 plus 11 plus 8. Perimeter would equal, using your calculator, you can plug it in, and you should get 30 centimeters. Remember, it's the distance around, so it's just going to be the unit. Now, once we have taken care of this, there is not a formula, and we do not even have the shape on our formula sheet. This is a pentagon. Okay, it has 5 sides, and it's not a regular pentagon. It has actually these two sides are the same, but I know when I add them together, I'm going to have 5 measurements. So it would be 4 plus, this is also 4. Notice those little marks show me that these two have the same measurement. So I'm going to put 4 plus 4 plus, this is 9 and this is 9 because of this little, it's called a tick mark. Because of that tick mark, it means these are both the same. So 9 plus 9 plus, and then we have the 6. So this shape has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. I'm going to add 5 measurements together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to put into my calculator or into Desmos. I get 32 millimeters. Now, Desmos, it's a lot easier to check your work. With mine on a calculator, it's not so easy. So if I make a mistake, please let me know. I can't go back and check because all I have is the answer. You guys have the numbers you put into Desmos. So it's really important to use Desmos when you have that available to you. All right, next we have another quadrilateral called the trapezoid. It's an isosceles trapezoid because it has exactly 1 pair of parallel sides, and then these 2 sides are equal. Regardless, to find the perimeter of this, I'm going to have to add all 4 sides together. So I'm going to do 3 plus, and this is 8 and this is 8 because they have that same tick mark. Both of these have the same measurement. So I'm going to put 8 plus 8 and then plus the 5 at the bottom. The shape is a quadrilateral. It has 4 sides, so I need to add together 4 measurements. So when I put that together, you get 24 inches. All right, now we're going to look at how to calculate the perimeter of a rectangle that's not also a square. So this is the kind of rectangle that you learned about in kindergarten and first grade, and they'd say it has 2 long sides and 2 short sides. Not the definition of a rectangle, but it does kind of describe what the shape looks like. On the formula sheet, if I look, I see that shape. I see the formula here, P equals 2L plus 2W. So in this box, I'm going to put P equals 2L plus 2W. And I copy that right from the formula sheet. Now, for this one, I would use Desmos with this formula or a calculator. Desmos is preferred though, because that way it's less likely to make a careless mistake. We're going to use this formula for the rectangle. So I'm going to put P equals formula first, 2L plus 2W. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute. Remember, this is a product term, meaning I'm going to multiply 2 times my length. And this is also a product term. That means I'm going to multiply 2 times the width. It doesn't matter which is which. It doesn't matter. I can pick L for, I can be 8 or 3, doesn't matter. Whichever one I use for one, I'm going to use the other for the other variable. So I'm just going to do 2 times, and I'm going to pick 8. And then I'm going to do 2 times 3. Now, using Desmos, if you put this in, that raised dot comes up. You do 2 times 8 plus 2 times 3. That would be 16 plus 6. And you should get 22 centimeters. You don't need this last line. Okay. Now, real life, I am not thinking this in my head if I'm trying to find the perimeter and I'm trying to do mental math. So I want to give you another one that's not on the formula sheet that I think is actually a little bit easier to use in real life. It is P equals 2 parentheses L plus W. Meaning with order of operations, I would have to do the parentheses first. I would add 1 length and 1 width, and then I would multiply by 2 by doubling it. Okay, I think that's easier. And let me show you why. So the formula for this would be P equals 2 times L plus W. I'm going to put 2 times, and then I'm going to put 8 plus 3 or 3 plus 8. It doesn't matter. And if I add this first with order of operations with PEMDAS, I get 11 times 2 is 22. That's really easy to do mentally. So I still get 22 centimeters. And you could put that in Desmos as well. Now realize that is not on my formula sheet, okay? But on the homework, you can use this if you would like. If you want to make sure you're on the right track, I would just stick with the formulas that are on here. But real life, this is what I use more often than the formula. I add the length and width together and then multiply by 2. All right, turn in the page. So now we're going to practice what we just went over, and I'm going to stick with that formula sheet and use that for my perimeter. So for this rectangle, if I look on my formula sheet, I can say, okay, here's a rectangle. Here's my formula, P equals 2L plus 2W. So P equals 2L plus 2W. Okay, I'm going to pick one or the other. I'm just going to put 2 times 11 plus 2 times 4. I'm going to put that into Desmos. And I'm going to get P equals 30 feet. And we don't need this last line because we are using Desmos. It does all the order of operations for us. Now, remember when you have a fraction, you can use calculator, take 1 divide by 2, and it gives you 0.5. So this would equal 13 5/10. Even though you can put fractions into teacher made, I want you to put what you're putting into Desmos. You cannot put fractions into Desmos or a calculator. So you need to show me the fraction equivalent as a decimal. Here we have 3 over 10. So 3 divided by 10 is going to equal 3/10. 0.3. So this 6 3/10 would be 6 3/10. So these are the 2 measurements that I'm going to be putting into my formula. Okay, so that I can use Desmos. So I'm going to put P equals 2L plus 2W. 2 times, I can use parentheses, okay? I can use the parentheses to separate it, 13 and 5/10 plus 2 times 6 and 3/10. Oh gosh. All right, so this is going to equal, put that in. I got 39 and 6/10. Did you all get that? Somebody checking behind me? Okay, and that's going to be inches. Any questions? All right, coming over then to page, we're going to skip over to page 65 because I want to make sure you have enough to get your homework done. Notice we have a different shape. P is perimeter. Okay, equals, and that perimeter for this shape, it's a square. What's special is the perimeter is going to equal 4 equal sides. So we are going to then do 4P equals 4S. So when we have the square, all 4 sides are the same. So my formula is P equals 4S. P equals 4 times 11. And that means P equals 44 feet. Okay. Still a square. Notice on my formula sheet, here's the square. P equals 4S. So I'm going to put P equals 4S again. 4 times the side is 7 8/10. And so P is going to equal, if I put that in, 7.8 times 4, I get 31 2/10. Okay, and that's going to be centimeters. Now, notice on the formula sheet for a triangle, there is no perimeter. Okay, no perimeter part here. So with that, the P though on an equilateral is going to be perimeter equals, it is equal to 3 equal sides. So the formula I can use is P equals 3S. So I have 3 equal sides, P equals 3S. Okay, so P is going to equal 3 times 12, and you're going to get 36 centimeters. Any questions on the triangle? This is not on your formula sheet, but you do need to know this tonight for your teacher made. If you have an equilateral, meaning all 3 sides are equal, your formula is going to be P times 3 times the S, just like the square. Turn the page. Okay. Focusing on the formulas, this is a square. Looking at the formula, it's going to be P equals 4S. Okay, you're going to put that in. This is an equilateral triangle. That means P equals 3S. For the formula for this one, perimeter is going to equal S plus S plus S. The reason we're doing that is we can't multiply by 3 because this has 3 different measurements. So I would put this for the formula. My work is going to be putting 7 plus 11 8/10 plus 11 8/10. And then P is going to equal your answer centimeters. Okay. Last one is the square. So P equals 4S. There's only 8 questions in teacher made on perimeter. It is squares, rectangles, and triangles. Okay. Most of the formulas you have on your formula sheet, make sure that you fill in each of those boxes. I think most of them have 3 boxes, one for the formula, one for the substitution, and one for your final answer. I know that was fast. Any quick questions? Use your notes, use your formula sheet, and use Desmos. I will see everyone at 11:45. Have a marvelous Monday. Until then, bye guys.